In this session, we're going to discuss the basics of the general ledger. So here I am in my enterprise, and off of the main ribbon, you're going to see the general ledger tab here. Before we get into the general ledger, let's go do a quick little review on some of the setup stuff. So we're going to go to enterprise setup. I'm going to scroll down. So underneath enterprise settings, you're going to see a tab for general ledger. So in this tab, you're going to have two actions. You have what we call the warning section here. So if you want to have the system pop up a little warning to let you know if you're doing a transaction too far in the past or in the future, it will do that. If you don't want it to do it, you can uncheck the boxes. You can also change how many days. You can also lock the general ledger. So what this lock does is it just stops anybody from backdating a transaction beyond the date that you set it at. So once you set a date in here, it'll lock it down to that specific date. Underneath ledger settings, this will be the main registry accounts in your system. Now, there's going to be several other accounts that are going to go in, but these are the main ones. Basically, this is what the system is being told where to send the money. So if I click on cash door, see it's telling it to go to that asset account. Down at the very bottom, you can set a fiscal year beginning date if you wish, whichever date you want. It just starts the income statement. A little further down underneath accounting, you have ledger accounts, location ledger accounts. So ledger accounts are going to be the ledger accounts in the enterprise. So this is a listing of accounts. And again, you can add, edit, and delete here. I strongly advise you don't delete anything. Location ledger accounts would be any additional accounts you want to enter at the enterprise. It will immediately go across to all locations. So here I have this rebate account. It's an income. We double click and open this up. You see, you can't even choose which locations it goes to. It just automatically goes to all locations. So you can add any accounts you want here to keep it uniform across all of the locations. And it really doesn't matter. So if I go and add, see, I can pick any type of account I want. So when I go to the general ledger in here, you're going to see a main ribbon across the top. And then you're going to have your accounts down here. Account name will be on the left. There is a spot for an account number to tell you the type and whatever the dollar balance is in that account. So the idea here is that you can search any account you want. If I'm looking for a particular account, all I have to do is just start typing and it pulls it up. If I wish to look at any account in here, I can go in, select it. I can right click. I can view it in another window. I can also do this here. I can click. I can go up to the top, go to window, or I can just double click it. That opens the journal. Anytime you open a journal in here, it'll give you whatever the current day is. There will be a refresh at the top of the screen. You can always print, email, PDF, and export to Excel. There's always a find in here, a find. Let's go pick another day here. Let's give a little bit more information. We'll refresh it. So if I'm looking for something in particular, I click on find. I can search any of these columns. So these are the columns Got date, entry number, description, and amount. And you just tell it what you're looking for. I'm looking for an amount of $59.11. Hit find all. There it is. I click it. It'll highlight it in the background for me. If I hover my mouse over any one of these lines, it will have a little pop-up. Tells you what transaction it is, the date, last time it was modified, and who modified it. So key here is getting people to log in with their username. So that way when you're looking at this little audit trail here, you'll know who did it. Down on the bottom left corner, view manually entered transactions only. So anything that was manually entered through a GL adjustment, you can check the box. It will bring just those lines up, and they will be highlighted in turquoise. Now, if I want to go actually look at this entry here, I can just simply double click it. Takes me to the entry itself. And again, up here, we'll tell you who did it. If you wish to add any additional accounts back here, you certainly can. You just come up to the top and hit new account. Give it a name. You can put a number if you like. What type of account, whatever you want. You can have parent and child accounts. Put a little description, and you can have subtotal only account. So whatever you want to add to this journal ledger, you certainly can. This at the top here, edit, that is the same thing as right-clicking and edit here. You see a lot of the same features if I just left-click, right-click versus left-click, come up to the top. One thing I would recommend is to not delete accounts in here. Now, if you do have accounts that you don't want to use, you can make them inactive. So for example, let's say I have an expense account or something that I'm not going to be using. I can click on it, right click, I can edit, and then I can make it inactive. I select OK. So now I've hidden that account. Now, since that account had zero balance in it, it won't even show up in the income statement. Now, if I want to see what is inactive, bottom left corner, click on inactive, and anything with the black X you'll know is an inactive account. If you wish to turn it back on, click it, right click, do an edit, and uncheck the box. When it comes to new transactions, we're going to do a separate video just on this by itself, and so we can explain how this is all going to work. This view journal is the same thing as me right-clicking and viewing journal. Okay. You do have a search capability in here. So whenever I click on search here, I can search any time frame I want. I can search any account, or I can search the entire journal ledger. I can search by entry number, by description, or by dollar amount. Let's see if we have something in here for $59.11. We'll hit search, see what comes up. So we have 4 entries, 2 positive, 2 negative. I can double click, takes me to the entry. Another thing you will notice when you come to this level here, down on the bottom left corner, you can view as single column, and you can view as debit credit. You just leave it, whichever you prefer. You do have a print function here. Now on this print function, you can print, save as PDF, export to Excel, whatever date range you so choose, and whichever accounts you choose. So, maybe I wanted some information here on a couple of my bank accounts. I could do that. I could save it to PDF or Excel or print, hit next, and that's what it will do. So you can pick and choose here whatever accounts you want. You do have an export feature. So whenever you export, you can export out whatever date range you want to pull. And it is kind of preset up on what to export and what not to. You can also override this. If I say, well, I don't want to pull these two banks, for example, I can say, well, don't export it. And then you can pick and choose what you want out of here. The import feature is typically used to import in numbers, say at the end of the year. Maybe your accountant wants to import in some numbers. It also has a feature where you can do a payroll import. Now this is a company called Paymate. So you'd have to get in contact with them to set it up, and then you can import it in. This GL generic one here, that's for importing in numbers. We're going to do a separate video on this also because there is a little bit of setup to make sure you can get this done correctly. Okay. Income statement, balance sheet, trial balance, audit trail. Now you got to remember this is going to be just for the enterprise general ledger here. So if I go to income statement here, you'll notice it starts it on my fiscal year beginning date. You can always change anything you want, whatever date range you want. At the top, you're always going to have a print, PDF, email, export to Excel, reset or refresh. Here it's going to give you the numbers. You can look at previous year comparisons. So whatever time frame you're looking at here, it'll show you the same time previous year. And you can even see percent of income. You can always pull this at any time. You do have a balance sheet. And again, you can pull previous year and whatever date range you want. Anytime I'm in the income statement or the balance sheet, if I want to go look at a journal, all I have to do is double click it. Once I double click it, it'll open it up, give me all the details. So whether it's the balance sheet or the income statement, you can do the same thing. If I come into my receivables here, you'll notice there's some of these have this turquoise background. That's a GL adjustment. Now, if you're looking at something over a long period of time, maybe over the course of a year, and I'm looking just for GL adjustments, all I have to do is check the box at the bottom left. And now I see just those. When I double click on it, it actually takes me to the entry. The system will automatically generate the retained earnings and the net income. That's automatic based off of sales and cost of sales. Okay. And expenses. So you cannot directly adjust these. This is going to look at what you're selling and what your costs are. Have a full trial balance. Again, you can set whatever time frame you want, and you have everything. You have a audit trail. Pick whatever date range you want to look at. You certainly can. Hit refresh. You also have a find and anything you want to look at. Double click it. There's an entry. Income statement, balance sheet, trial balance, and audit trail are going to be for the enterprise only. Enterprise only. Now, at each location, you will have the exact same thing. Income statement, balance sheet, trial balance, and audit trail. What's going to be different back here at the enterprise is here we can pull a consolidated income statement and a consolidated balance sheet. So this is going to be not only for the enterprise, it's going to be for all of the locations at the same time. So if I go to a consolidated income statement, I need to set what date range do I want to look at here. You can set it to anything you want. Once I select my date range, I hit create. So I go to show location details. Now I see not only the enterprise, all my locations, but here's my grand total for everything. One of the things that you want to be aware of back here, sometimes we're looking at a consolidated and you might notice that there are missing journals depending on the location you're looking at. All this means is that here we have all of these journals set up just in this one location. One location. This accounting and legal journal is the same across all of the locations. The system really doesn't care how you set this up. Just remember, whenever you see these blanks, that just means you don't have that journal at that location. If you want to keep everything uniform across all locations, your best bet is to go to the setup in the enterprise and add those journals there, any additional journal you want. That'll keep them uniform across all locations. See here I have early pay discount. Here I have a remodeling expense at this location. So just kind of keep that in mind. So what happens if I were to double click on this? Nothing. See, because I'm looking at 3 locations plus the enterprise here. At the bottom will be your totals. When I go to a balance sheet, it's going to be the same thing. Great. Show locations. And then I can see it all in comparison. If you notice, I have some capital assets at this location. Again, net income and retained earnings is going to be system generated. It's going to be this journal here, this journal here. One of the things that a lot of people ask about when we first start using an enterprise system is, what is this journal here? Transaction to from other locations. And just so you know, we are going to have a separate video on this so you can really see the details. But basically, this is the bridge that everything crosses to go from one location to the enterprise or from the enterprise to another location. So as the money moves around in your system, this is the bridge that it uses to go from one place to another. The one thing about this that you want to remember is that there's always going to be money here, but this, the enterprise column, as a matter of fact, the total. See, I'm looking at the total here. This should stay at 0. In other words, all transactions should be balanced. So if you start getting a dollar value here, that's telling you that somewhere along the line you did a one-sided transaction. You didn't finish crossing the bridge. And you notice up here, I can even view the income statement here too. That's your basic general ledger. Those are all your features. Again, we are going to have a separate video on new transaction, and we're going to do a separate video on transaction to from location so you can see how that works.